disputa, história, paixão, orgulho. Vamos rever os maiores confrontos do futebol. Bem-vindo ao Rivalidades. Religião, história e orgulho em jogo. Não há nada no mundo como o Celtic contra o Rangers.
Derby Day between the old firm was about singing non-stop. The noise and the din that was in both, whether it was Ibrox or Parkhead, was quite...
I think the passion was probably the thing that sticks out the most. Blood and guts, and both teams going to go hammering tongs at each other.
You come out of the dressing room and you line up next to each other. And once when you go out, it's a big roar, and it is an explosion. And it is, yeah, for a player, it is fantastic.
There's big atmospheres and there's enormous atmospheres. And the Rangers Celtic one was always ridiculously noisy.
É o confronto que eles chamam de velha firma. Glasgow Rangers versus Glasgow Celtic.
Massive rivalry. But it's great. I mean, that's the type of thing that you want in a city. I mean, there's no sense in having two big clubs in a city and saying that there's not any rivalry. Of course there's rivalry.
It's like the rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester United. It's like the rivalry between Boca Juniors and River Plate. Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Glasgow cannot without the old firm. I think if you take Rangers and Celtic away, then I think a lot of people will struggle here.
Ela existe há mais de um século, mas Celtic e Rangers é a partida mais esperada do calendário escocês. Com o passar dos anos, os dois times simplesmente dominaram o futebol do país. Celtic e Rangers juntos já venceram 90 títulos. Além do futebol, é uma rivalidade que está no núcleo da sociedade no oeste da Escócia. E a disputa continua imensa.
Match is always important. Celtic Rangers derby is probably the most famous derby in the world. As you can hear.
Unbelievable. Still the same. Still get the same buzz at every game, and I realise that a lot of that, you know, is down to see as hatred between both sides, or the edge that creates. But the edge that creates makes for an unbelievable atmosphere.
You can get intelligent, well-educated men going to the football on a derby day and not seeing any football, just shouting abuse at each other. And it's just, it beggars belief, some of the stuff that goes on.
It means everything. The 60,000 people up in here will be just praying that we beat these people today for no other reason than they are the Rangers. That's how important it is.
Não é possível olhar para a rixa entre Celtic e Rangers apenas como uma rivalidade esportiva. Ela reflete as divisões que existem no oeste da Escócia há muitos anos. Tradicionalmente, o Celtic é uma equipe católica de Glasgow e o Rangers recebe apoio da população protestante. A divisão foi tão impregnada que por 118 anos o Rangers teve uma regra não escrita que não contrataria um jogador católico. É uma rivalidade que reflete as circunstâncias históricas que a criou. A paixão que cerca a velha firma tem suas raízes na Irlanda do Norte, uma província que sofreu terríveis consequências da segregação religiosa. O resultado para a população irlandesa foi muito significativo em Glasgow.
Celtic are essentially an Irish club playing in Scotland, and they were founded by Irish people, or people of very recent Irish descent, in the 1880s. And the original purpose of Celtic was to raise money for charitable purposes, to feed the poor children.
O homem que recebe mais crédito que qualquer outro pela fundação do Celtic é o irmão Walfrid, que pregava ao leste de Glasgow. Naquela época era uma associação esportiva para ajudar a comunidade irlandesa. Mal eles sabiam que St. Mary daria luz a um dos gigantes do futebol europeu.
Celtic and the people involved in Celtic had a very big decision to take at that time, which was either to be an Irish exclusivist club or else to say, no, we are we're a Scottish club and we are open to all, and that is the way we want to develop. And very fortuitously, they decided on the latter course. So Celtic have always been Irish, and in my view, proudly Irish in their origins and connections, but they have never been an exclusivist Catholic Irish club.
O ideal de não exclusividade não foi abraçado pelos fundadores do Rangers, que o desenvolveram como um clube protestante, dirigido por protestantes. Com o passar dos anos, tornou-se sagrado na cultura do Rangers não contratar um jogador católico. Poucos conseguiram passar na peneira, mas efetivamente os católicos eram barrados no Rangers. Foi uma política que ressoaria na rivalidade de Glasgow por muitos anos por vir.
Once you have that kind of division, maybe it's inevitable that it polarizes and hardens. And in Glasgow, in the early part of the 20th century, there was another big influx of immigration, which was shipyard workers from the Protestant north of Ireland. So the more they attached themselves to football clubs, then the more these football clubs became identified with that kind of division. And they brought with them the songs and in some cases the prejudices, which certainly intensified the rivalry and the passions for good and very often for ill.
Então, com as diferenças tão profundas, ainda há alguma dúvida do porquê as paixões são tão intensas?
Apart from the very obvious footballing rivalries, there's the religious aspect, which is in many ways not very healthy or helpful.
The problem is that when it goes into other attitudes, from a religious background, then I wish to heck it had never happened. Rivalry's terrific as long as it's healthy. When it becomes unhealthy, then I don't think it does anything for the place.
You're aware of it, and it was never something I was completely comfortable with. It was it wasn't nice. There was, I was actually married to a Catholic girl, and it was not something I was ever brought up with. It wasn't. I was from Edinburgh, and in the west of Scotland, that's a bigger deal. In Edinburgh, it wasn't an issue.
Alguns dos incidentes isolados incluem uma invasão depois da final de 1980 e tentativas de proibir o Celtic de exibir a bandeira irlandesa em 1952. E depois que fãs invadiram o campo em Barcelona, o diretor do Rangers, Reid Waddell, se dirigiu ao estádio e do meio de campo em Ibrox disse que estaria disposto a contratar um católico para o Rangers, mas nenhum católico veio durante a era de Waddell. A sensação era de que já havia sido o bastante e os times concentraram seus esforços para acabar com a intolerância.
Regrettably, it's part of Scottish society, but you have to keep battling away to drive it down. And I think over the last few years, there's definitely been massive progress made that way. A lot of sectarian singing has been all but drowned out now at Ibrox and it.
They've made great strides together to try and make sure that it's about supporting your club and giving the best for your club only.
There's so many joint initiatives between the teams to beat the sectarianism and the prejudices that are there. If you look back in the 80s when there were riots at games and various things at cup finals, etc., you would have to say then it wasn't healthy. But I think over the last 2 decades, both clubs have made massive efforts to progress, with Fergus McCann's Boys Against Bigotry, the Rangers programme Pride Over Prejudice, which I think have made, big steps towards zoning out the sectarianism and the bigotry in the home grounds.
It exists and it has to be addressed. And if football is the repository for these attitudes, then football has a responsibility to clear that it does no truck with them.
Quanto efeito teve esse trabalho na comunidade? Os sentimentos mudaram desde uma partida da velha firma em 1986. Enquanto elementos da intolerância ainda se escondem em Glasgow, a situação claramente se acalmou.
I think when it first started, you know, there was a lot of rivalry regarding the kind of sectarianism and things like that, but I think they're trying to kind of whittle that away, and obviously it's getting a bit better for that. I used to think years ago there used to be 300 or 400 people were arrested at these games, but you don't find that now.
Even all the Celtic fans won't be sectarian based at all, like, you know. Just good fans, a bit of crack, a bit of banter, even with the Rangers ones now, like walking down the road, it's good, it's all a bit of fun, like.
O novo momento.
7 de abril de 1986 se tornou um dos momentos mais importantes para o Rangers, tanto dentro quanto fora do campo. Graeme Souness veio para o clube de Sampdoria, na Itália. Ele havia desfrutado de um sucesso fenomenal com o Liverpool antes de vir para Ibrox como técnico-jogador. Mas naquela época os fãs do Rangers podiam ser difíceis de agradar.
We're not caring about that, as long as he doesn't sign Catholic. Well, as long as a Rangers player goes onto the park and plays in a blue shirt and plays for a Rangers team, I don't care who he signs.
We've got our traditions at Ibrox, and we don't want to see them broke for the sake of one man. Soon as I know.
Mas Souness sempre foi seu próprio mestre, e ele iria dirigir o Rangers de sua própria maneira.
The very first question I'm asked when I'm revealed as a new manager conference was, would you sign a Catholic? And I said, how can I marry one and go home to one every night but not work with one? So I think previous managers had answered it in a similar way, that they would always sign, of course they would sign a Catholic, and never ever did.
Mas Souness foi fiel à sua palavra e não apenas contratou um católico. Ele contratou Mo Johnstones, um católico que havia jogado pelo Celtic. Johnstone estava retornando para a Escócia depois de uma passagem na França com o Nantes. Ele estava preparando sua volta ao Celtic, mas o acordo não deu certo, então Souness se envolveu.
We ended up signing Maurice Johnson, not for any other reason, and he was a very, very good football player that we felt would improve our lot. And he was very brave to do it, and I think Rangers have never looked back since we made that brave move.
Não é preciso dizer que a contratação foi uma notícia que abalou o mundo da velha firma. Mais uma vez, os fãs ficaram divididos, mas pelo menos alguns viam o lado bom.
I think it's up to the Rangers supporters to welcome the guy when he comes, when he goes on, and and forget about all the religious barriers, and say, right, Maurice Johnson is a Rangers player, and that's the most important thing. Let's give the guy a chance.
He's a good player, but you're Catholic.
I never thought they'd sign a Catholic, especially the one that did sign it. Just unbelievable.
Should have been done years ago. Because, religion is religion, football is football.
Maurice, quite happy to be a Ranger? Yep. Everything good for you?
From our part, or from my part, and the club's part, they knew it had to be done. But it wasn't. We didn't target Maurice simply because it would break that 118 years of not signing a Catholic. We did it because it was the right thing for football reasons.
Estas razões foram muito práticas e justas. A antiga política ditava que jogadores católicos não podiam jogar pelo Rangers, não importava sua qualidade como jogador.
If there was two kids that were the top players in Glasgow, and one was Catholic and one was Protestant, Celtic only had to work on the one who was Protestant, because they knew the Catholic one wouldn't be going to Rangers. That one was in the bag, but the Protestant one was one that they could devote time to persuade him to come to Celtic. For the future well-being, for the growth of Rangers, it had to be done. Religion, colour or creed should never come into it. They should be judged on what they do on a football pitch, not colour of skin or what church they go to or don't go to.
Esta é uma situação que o lendário Jock Stein do Celtic usava em seu favor desde os anos 60.
Like many of the major figures in Celtic's history, Stein was not a Catholic and was not did not have that whole Irish connection. Stein had a great line, that if he had a choice between a Protestant player, he would always choose the Protestant because he knew that Rangers we did have a sectarian employment policy, could not sign the Catholic.
Em 1967, Stein tornou o Celtic o primeiro time britânico a vencer a Copa Europeia. O mais incrível é que nenhum dos jogadores do time que bateu o Milan por 2-1 em Lisboa veio de mais de 50 quilômetros de Glasgow. Um deles era o capitão Billy McNeill.
We just wanted to win it. We wanted to win it for ourselves. We wanted to win it for the club. We wanted to win it for the supporters. And it was something that was great.
It was more than just about football. I mean, the whole thing was the triumph of a community that, you know, had always felt its backs to have been a bit to the wall, always felt itself to have been a bit looked down on, always had regarded this football club as symbol of what it was capable of achieving, all of these things, you know, and suddenly they were the best in Europe.
O Celtic conseguiu chegar à final novamente, mas perdeu para o Feyenoord em 1970. 2 anos mais tarde, com o capitão John Grigg, o Rangers corrigiu o equilíbrio de poder na Escócia e venceu a Copa Europeia em Barcelona.
I think at the time it was great. A city with just slightly less than 1 million of a population had 2 teams that had won European trophies, which was exceptional because I don't think any other country of our size has had that type of success.
A rivalidade, no entanto, estava maior do que nunca. Entre 66 e 74, o Celtic destruiu o Rangers com 9 títulos da primeira divisão escocesa seguidos, algo sem precedentes.
It was massive because people have said to me often that it must have been easy and a couple to win it. It was harder. Nothing was ever easy. You had to keep your concentration all the time. You were a big challenge to everybody else. They tried to knock you off your pedestal. And it was demanding because you knew you were expected to do something good all the time. Big Jock was absolutely marvellous as a manager, of course.
Mas o Rangers também teria sua era. Entre 89 e 97, sob o comando de Graham Souness e Walter Smith, o Rangers igualou a famosa marca do Celtic de 9 títulos seguidos.
I think it's a tremendous achievement. There's been a great deal of pressure on it. I've said on many occasions that as we were going along the road, you came to admire Celtic's feat of winning 9 championships more and more as each season went on.
Before I won, contributed to Rangers equalling that record with Walter after me. So that was a fantastic achievement. Any club to win 9 championships is outrageous in the modern game.
When Jock Stein's team won the 9 for Celtic, it was said in modern football it couldn't happen again. But you have to look at the teams that Rangers constructed then on a backbone of British players with special foreigners like Laudrup and Gascoigne. And that was a special era for Rangers that they may never get back to.
E mantendo o espírito da rivalidade, o Celtic esperava que o Rangers não conseguisse.
I've got to be perfectly honest with you. I was hoping that they wouldn't get to 9 in a row, just like every other Celtic fan, because it was tarnishing our achievements. But when I think about it now, possibly it was quite realistic and satisfactory that they got to 9 and didn't go on that. That suited us because our record wasn't beaten, and probably suited them as well because they had done something likewise.
O equilíbrio de poder estava mudando novamente. A chegada de Martin O'Neill favoreceu o Celtic.
He knew what the old firm games meant. He was incredibly passionate about them. He'd grown up a Celtic fan in Ireland, and he certainly relished those fixtures and certainly got caught up in them.
Então, sob o comando de Alex McLeish, o Rangers obteve mais 2 títulos. 2005 veio e a decisão ficou para o final e ninguém sabia para quem iria o troféu.
Wasn't aware of it at the time, but we knew that the helicopter was in the air, hovering between the 2 towns of Edinburgh and Motherwell. That was probably the biggest spine tingler that I've experienced in my entire life, when the Rangers fans roared on approval's equaliser. We'd all agree that it was one of the most spectacular days ever in Rangers history. The commentator's famous line of the helicopter is changing direction, I think we'll go down in folklore.
E temos mais outro encontro da velha firma. E como o Gordon Strachan motivaria seu time.
This is Celtic versus Rangers. Yeah. I don't think there'll be any problem. The world's watching you. I don't think there's a problem. There's no problem. It takes a life of its own, this. Forget whatever tournament you're playing on, it just takes a life of its own. You just have to win. You've got to let yourselves and the fans to enjoy the madness, because you create the madness and they enjoy the madness. So we've got to stay above the madness, which is fine.
Não se sabe se era loucura, nervosismo ou mesmo doença. De qualquer maneira que isso pode te afetar, o grande dia havia chegado.
It's all about pride, basically. I think it's the #1 derby in the world. They say there's bigger ones, but I don't think there's any bigger. You always want to put one of your closest neighbour, as they say.
My stomach is in turmoil just with the nerves going up in here. The 3 points don't matter. We're going to win the league anyway, but we have to beat the Rangers. Have to.
I think Rangers might get something on Sunday, simply because I think Walter Smith will let his team know that defeat is not an option, and that possibly their quest for second means more to them than Celtic simply ticking down the time to when they win the title. So I wouldn't sit on the fence and go for a draw and say that Rangers might get a point on it.
60.000 pessoas em Parkhead e muitas mais em Glasgow totalmente fixadas na partida. O Celtic logo comemorará o título e tem bons motivos para estar confiante. Mas não se esqueça que os fãs do Rangers também estavam presentes. E o Rangers conseguiu marcar. Hugo Henrique lhes proporcionou uma vitória improvável em Parkhead.
Absolutely magic. The best result in the world. See, when I go into work tomorrow, I go into work and I'm getting them dogs abuse, whereas if they get beat today, I'm getting dogs abuse. That's what it's all about. And it's all about your team and your courage and everything about it. Everything's mad, but it's brilliant. And I'm glad we done them today.
A esperança que existe em Glasgow é a síntese da velha firma. Uma rivalidade intensa, mas com humor e sem a negatividade. Onde ir trabalhar e se vangloriar para os colegas significa tudo. De fato, como outras rivalidades no mundo.
I've never had any serious problems with Rangers fans. Sure, there's bad, but it wouldn't be football and it wouldn't be Glasgow without that type of thing.
Football is such an important thing in the people's life. They talk about it the whole week. They go to the stadium and they want to show that they support the team. It's a social thing, and here as well, Rangers and Celtic, they belong to Glasgow. It is so important that that all the firm is there in a good way, you know, with the passion, with the singing, with the fans supporting the team, and as long as you can control it.
Com o tempo, as tensões que destruíram Glasgow e o oeste da Escócia podem sumir para sempre. Mas esperamos que a paixão ao redor do confronto de Glasgow permaneça intacta, com um ano pertencendo ao Rangers ou ao Celtic.
It doesn't hurt that Celtic have been dominant in the last couple of years, but you know, nothing lasts forever. Things go, and I'm sure next year Rangers will be trying even harder to correct that balance. You know, Walter will do a good job there, and I'd expect them to put a far bigger challenge up next year.
Não importa quem domine, esta rivalidade nunca deixará de existir. Celtic contra Rangers, a velha firma continua.
I'm still looking for Rangers to win the derby games. Yeah. Well, it's been the last couple of years have not been so great, but overall Rangers are still winning more championships than Celtic. So as long as it stays like that, I'll be happy.
Você esteve na companhia de Luiz Alberto Volpi. Não perca os próximos programas da série Rivalidades.